Okay. I wanted to do a quick video. I say quick, but you know me. Because this headline came out today and I have my own personal experience and I had to look at the astrology. And so that's what we're going to do here. Donald Glover, Childish Gambino, has revealed today why, or in the past, I don't know, past day or so, why he canceled a tour. And it had to do with having a stroke at a concert he did in New Orleans in September of 2024. That stroke led to also finding out that he had a hole in his heart that he had to have surgery for. And so the whole tour had to be called off and canceled. Okay. So that information just came out. Like I saw it this morning on Reddit. So it's everywhere, but here's Consequences Sound talking about it. Okay. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because I had something happen very recently that was kind of similar. So I wanted to look at the astrology and show you what could be taking place and how it aligns with like what I'm seeing in my astrology. So when it comes to our birthdays, we are about a year and a half apart, he and I. So we have some similar placements when it comes to our generational stuff. But I wanted to show what's going on for Uranus. And so I have been doing a deep dive with Uranus in the past few years because it has been quite prevalent in how it's showing up for me in my life and just creating and sowing chaos. But its point is to bring liberation and understanding. It's meant to catch you up to speed when you, being the hopeless human with all your feelings and all your stories and mindsets, is not quite aligned with that higher self version of you. And so Uranus's job is to sometimes push you in the right direction. And sometimes it does it, and it does it in a really scary, scary way that can have you really questioning your stability, maybe your mental stability. So I wanted to show you how Uranus has been affecting me and to be able to like pick out times where I'm noticing things happen that are very Uranus themed so that I can also share something that both Donald Glover and I have experienced and to show Uranus's influence in that. So I thought this would be an interesting video to do because that's information that just came out about Donald Glover. But when I saw that he suffered from a stroke, it caught my attention because a few weeks ago, it seemed like that's what happened to me. So we're going to talk about it. So let's first start to talk about Uranus. So I need to kind of preface my story with the fact that I have a lot of air in my chart. Because I have a lot of air, what Uranus does for me, or at least what I have analyzed in the past 7 years or so, 8 years, is Uranus really is very impactful for me because I think it works at my speed and my level. And I like things like big and bold and crazy. I The more I've learned about Uranus, the more I'm like, that's my planet because it's trying to bring truth to light. And it does it in sort of big, brash, bold ways that hurts. I like pain. um, but but um, it sucks to experience the things happening to you because of Uranus, because it's doing things to catch you up and not comfortably do that. And there comes a point when Uranus is treating you like a rag doll, and then you just gotta be like, you know what? Just do your thing, Uranus. I'm just gonna just go with it here. I had a dream years ago where I was in a river where I could walk in the river, but the water was up to my chest. So it was hard with the current and the rocks to really like be able to be stable while trying to move in this river. This is a dream, right? And then there came a point when I just like went limp by choice and just flowed down the river because that's where it was taking me. And there came a point when all the effort and work I was doing to keep myself steady was keeping me from getting to where I needed to go. And I think about this dream, even though it was something that's so simple. Um, I just remember, that it was one of those dreams that really sticks out because of like how real it felt. But also the message behind it, a very simple message. Sometimes you just got to go with the flow and just see where things go. And it's really hard to do sometimes. So I wanted to talk a little bit about my Uranus journey in the past 7 years because in September, October, I don't know which month of 2018, I had a spiritual awakening. And it happened because I went to a mediumship 101 class that was like a 5-hour class at a spiritualist church in downtown Bangor, Maine. And when I was experiencing the class, which included meditations, I started getting really excited. Like I really felt like, oh my God, like there's something inside of me that is just like really excited about what I'm doing here. And there was an amazing connection that was felt. And halfway through the class, I luckily we had a break, but I felt like I wanted to run around the block because I was just so like there was just this energy that had built up inside of me, and it was just felt like so liberating and so amazing. I went out and had a smoke. That's what I did. And then I came back in, and then like things started coming down. But after that class, I started having like these kind of weird things that would happen. That night, I was kind of fell asleep on my bed with my son in my arms, and I woke up a couple of times, and I was waking up with my eyes closed but seeing the room. And so this happened a couple of times that night, and that was kind of a weird thing that happened. The next day, I had a terrible headache and was in bed all day. And then the day after that, I started having really high anxiety, like really uncomfortable anxiety. I had experienced something like this before, where it's almost like I can, now that I'm a little bit older and I know things a little bit differently, maybe it's like a high cortisol event, like adrenaline surging through your body. And it's almost like I don't know where to put it. I don't know how to release this. It's just stuck inside of me and it feels really uncomfortable. And so that went on for days. And then the teacher of the class, I went back to her and I was like, what do I do about this? What is this normal? Like like what's going on? And she said, oh, try the white light meditation. And she told me how to do it. And we did it in the class. So she's like, do it, as much as you can. And so I did. And I would be taking breaks in my car doing this meditation. I'd be waking up first thing in the morning doing the meditation. Before I go to bed, I'd do the meditation. And it was just like, 15 minutes of this meditation, doing it as much as I could. And day after day, things started calming down more and more and more. Within a week of this high anxiety, doing the meditation, that's when sort of a stereotypical spiritual awakening was experienced and took place. The sky is in technicolor. I feel love. I feel in love. I'm listening to the birds and I'm noticing them. And there's almost like a fascination I have with them. And it's stupid, but it's like, I almost can't, I'm mesmerized. And then the sky was like an entity. It was its own being, and I could feel it on my shoulders. Ugh. I get emotional thinking about it because it was just so impactful. It was so beautiful. And it was having this spiritual awakening when I, started really thinking about that class and the things that had occurred, and maybe there's something to this, maybe psychic is something that I can do, and maybe mediumship and talking to dead people, maybe that's something like I can do, because here I am having this amazing experience because of that class. Maybe there's something compelling me, pushing me towards doing this. That spiritual awakening is what took place with Uranus at 1 degree of Taurus in my 10th house. So we're looking at equal house system for those that care. If this was Placidus, this would be my 9th house for those who care. Okay. Either way, looking at whole sign system, 1 degree in Taurus, Uranus started its journey, and that's where I had a spiritual awakening. Okay. This is what set me off to be where I am today, talking about the weird shit that I talk about, because before this, I wasn't thinking about any of this kind of stuff. Before this, I was a musician. I was writing songs. Before this, I was uh, in a career broadcasting where I was on the radio and I was on a morning show and I was entertaining thousands of people every morning. And to me, that was me finally in the career that I'd been waiting to be in for a long time. Not necessarily that I was expecting to be in a radio, but it was a communications job where I get to entertain. Like, I thought that fit me very well and inform, because we would also talk about stuff that was going on around town and write articles about it and stuff. So, but getting that job had happened the year before. So that transition of Uranus into that 10th house could have been a part of me getting into that radio job, even though I'd had radio jobs before that. Okay, so that's Uranus starting the journey for me into my 10th house. Let's move ahead a bit to when I quit radio to pursue psychic mediumship, spiritual life coaching, whatever direction the universe wanted to take me. Man, I was so naive and like, here we go, universe. You take me wherever you want. What a beautiful, freeing, awesome time of my life. But it was the months that followed that was sort of like I think of Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner and falling off the cliff. There was sort of the suspension of like the possibilities. And this June 2022 was that. Here we see Uranus 1 degree away from my north node. So that was, and this is before I really got into astrology at all. So I didn't plan this stuff, but look how close it is to my north node, which the north node is about, your calling, your destiny. And this is when I quit my job to do my corporate job, to do my passion. And not that I really had a clear path of what that was. Oh, and look, there's the North Node transiting and almost on my midheaven. So, like, that's there's some indicators there of maybe, divine timing, or like the astrology was lining up there. Was it the right thing to do? Oh, I look back and I go, I don't know sometimes. But it's an example of Uranus in a place at that time, how it's relevant to that timing. And we are right around my midheaven north node area with Uranus and the transiting north node itself. So that's kind of interesting. It wasn't a sudden decision, though. It wasn't like I was like, oh, I'm going to do that. And the reason why I say that is because Uranus is a sudden energy. It's an energy that, like, I think in the sense of it transiting, it's an energy that it can happen to you. So it's a quick thing that happens to you. But it can also be the wave you surf too. So you might just jump on the wave and go along with it, being a quick transition of life and stuff. I will say that was a decision I had made quite a while before that, because we had to change insurances and we have children. And so, like, that was a heavy decision to make. And to basically, like, not know if I was going to have income, like, that's really scary. Which is why that freedom didn't last very long. It could have been longer, but it wasn't. What was the other thing I was thinking of around this time? I don't know. All right. So that's when I quit my corporate job and went off the cliff. Take me where you want. All right. Now, I can't remember when it was in April, but in April of 2024, when we talk about Uranus, we're talking about quick things that happen. And by 2024, I had gone through, so 2022, I was feeling really good. I was off into space, like in suspension, where universe is going to take me. By October, I was starting to get worried. By January, I had gotten a part-time job. Okay. So January 2023, part-time job, and I'm working it. Then I go through a I that cliff I talk about, like, it went down. Down, 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 down. I got really depressed. I was feeling really stupid. I was feeling my emotions were, at one point I couldn't feel emotions. And that would be by the summertime, late summer. I was feeling like I had no emotions or inspiration. I couldn't even cry. Um, really questioning a lot of things. This is dark night of the soul kind of stuff. And then things kind of got a little better. By the fall, I was starting to feel a little better. But then by January, I started feeling panic, like a lot of anxiety happening. What I can look back on now and understand is that I was going through perimenopause and nobody was helping me understand that. And I didn't know that that's what was going on. But I know that now. So by April of 2024, I was experiencing a lot of anxiety. I was experiencing a lot of internal chest issues, throat issues, and eventually I ended up in the hospital, in the ER, because I had a panic episode that scared me so much that I finally had to get help. It was around this time that you can see, and if you go back in my channel, you look at other videos, I don't mind sharing my story. No. But Uranus was pretty close to my midheaven by that point, conjunct with Jupiter. So take whatever Uranus says and, like, explode it. That's what Jupiter will do. And that was around the time that I had this panic attack that took me to the hospital, that had me having an interview with a mental hospital. Like, should I be admitted? Like, I don't know why I'm having these thoughts, why I'm having this panic feeling that makes it so I can't sleep and I can't eat and I'm scared all the time. It was perimenopause. Nobody said that word. It still makes me mad because I'm still dealing with it today. I'm still dealing with it. And so you look at the placement and you see how close it is to midheaven, something of fatedness. But something I hadn't thought about was the other side of the chart. What is it opposing? And it's opposing the imam kuli, which is the roots, the things you inherit, the family karma. And I know now that what I was going through was because of genetics, was because of, being a woman. But the experience I was going through was because of like the things I had inherited. And I was just repeating the genetics. I was just repeating that. And I can't imagine what my mom went through and what her mom went through, and holy shit. Like, how did those people survive? I don't fucking know. But you can also see how close that conjunction is in opposition of my Saturn as well. You can take that for however you want, but I can certainly say that feeling comfortable at home was impossible at that time because I was panicked and I was scared to be by myself. I was scared. Okay. Whew. Uranus. One more thing to look at. November 6, 2025. So this was a few weeks ago. Man, my journey with perimenopause has included a lot of discovery and uncovering, including possible neurodivergence, which makes this transition of life like way more dramatic and traumatic. But also an underlying diagnosis that I had no idea was happening and that I had been experiencing for years but didn't know what it was, which is what brings us to November 6, 2025. I have been dealing with Uranus on my sun like a lot this year. And I've been dealing with a ton of nervous system issues because of the hormone therapy I've been going through. And the other things that I've been experiencing that didn't have diagnosis or were unknown as part of my experience. So on November 6, 2025, I had an episode at 11 o'clock a.m. I had an episode where my vision was messed up. I was seeing a flashing thing, which I'd seen before. I've seen a flashing thing before. But luckily, I was in a work Zoom meeting when I started experiencing confusion and I was having a hard time talking. And I thought I was having a stroke. But I was doing like the hand raising and smiling, and I was like, I seem to not be having a stroke, but I'm having a hard time talking. Like, this is crazy. Guess what? I ended up back at the ER. So here we are. Uranus. Here's the moon. This was 11 o'clock that day. 11 o'clock when this stuff was occurring. 0 degree, 0 degree. There's the moon. There's Uranus showing up again. Right on my sun energy. Your sun energy is your vitality. And not only is that conjunct, but it's also opposing Mars in the 5th house. And look how close that Mercury is, which is about mental processing. Mars is about action. So, like, this crazy combination could be very signature of Uranus doing what Uranus can do, which is create an emergency, create a situation that is sudden, that is kind of scary. For me, it's impacting my vitality. It's impacting who I am, what I know about myself. It's bringing me closer to my soul self energy, but it's doing so by also opposing the Mars energy that hit my 5th house of joy, creating fear. I'm scared. I don't know what it is. Am I having a stroke? And I think it's really interesting also this Mercury, I want to say around this time, Mercury was stationing, getting ready to go retrograde at this time too. Okay, so here is an example of what the astrology can look like when someone seems to be having a stroke. Now, what ended up happening for me was we did an MRI, there was no stroke, but we discovered that I have silent migraines or complex migraines. Migraines with aura is what I experienced that day. It may have coincided with starting a birth control pill that we ended up resorting to because hormone therapy, the golden standard for perimenopause, menopause care, was a total shit show for me. And maybe it's because I was having migraines the whole time and nobody knew, because my migraines don't hurt that much, but I can get visual things. And that's how I knew. That's how I found out that my whole hormone journey from this year, which was absolutely devastating and awful. Perimenopause, people, it's a big deal. Some people, they do fine through perimenopause. Other people, I can understand why the age range of 45 to 55-year-old women is the most likely time that a woman will commit suicide. I get it. Because what I've been going through the past 3 years, I'm kind of amazed that I've made it this far. And I'm angry about that. But anyway, this is an example of what it can look like to have what seemed to be a stroke. For me, it was uncovering that I have migraines, complex migraines, which can happen when you're going through a lot of hormone stuff. Okay? Now, let's go back to Donald Glover, Childish Gambino. Remember this article? This is how we started everything. He reveals, and this was today, November 23rd. He suffered a stroke in the last tour. He also broke his foot and found a hole in his heart. Oh my God. So we got to look at the astrology, you guys. So I found a source for his birthday and birth time. And that's how I can even look at this stuff, you guys. Even have a location. Okay. Oh, I should have told you where that was at. Now, to look at charts, I go to astroseek.com. And this is where you can actually put the information in. And so I was able to put his birthday in. Oh, shoot. I'm realizing that it's in the wrong system. It matters because this is how I read charts. And then I put in what's called the transit chart, which we were looking at with my stuff. And I found the day that he was in New Orleans And I estimated like a 10 o'clock time that he would have been doing a concert. That was just me guessing. And then we look at the astrology, and here's what we got. I have to look at Uranus because Uranus has been such a mother effer for me recently, in recent years, because it's getting so close to my sun energy, but it's also been crossing my north node in midheaven energy. Okay. Now look at this. So this was the day and maybe the time that he was experiencing his stroke. We look right at Uranus, which at that time was in Taurus, and we see this big red line. So it's at 27 degrees. We have a conflict line. That's what that red line is. That's a square with Mercury. So we look at the red stuff on this outer ring, and this is where planets were when they were transiting. We look at, also compare his own chart, which is this blue stuff inside here. And we see that on that day, Uranus was square Mercury. For him, Uranus is in his 9th house, which can have to do with maybe having a lot of change going on with beliefs, spirituality, which is interesting because I totally forgot about this, but when we look at what he said, and he revealed this information at a concert last night or something like that. There's something he said in this that I think speaks to the 9th house piece. So 9th house is about like understanding the rules, understanding reality, how things make sense, morals, ethics. Oh, this is what he said. Holy shit. The ordeal also gave Glover a fresh perspective on life as he told his fans, "They say everybody has 2 lives." Do they? Okay. "The second life starts when you realize you have one. You have one life, guys. You should be living your life how you want. If we have to do this again, it can only get better." Ironically, Uranus is about like our freedom. Living life how you want, like choice, freedom. That's what Uranus is about. And so having Uranus going through this spiritual house of his maybe gave him a new perspective now that it spent some time in Gemini. It's gone back into Taurus. He might have something that like in a few months, that Uranus is going to hit 27 degrees again. So I'm wondering if he gets more clarity on what happened that night, or maybe something happens again. I don't know. But on that day, holy crap, also on that day, he had Jupiter conjunct his north node, which is pretty much conjunct his midheaven. So this was like a fated event that brought him to where he's supposed to be. Like these things were supposed to happen in order for him to find out he had the hole in his heart, right? But maybe also gain that perspective of you have 2 lives, but you don't know you have 2 until that one is almost up. Then you realize, holy shit, I got to do things different. Fascinating. To have it square Mercury is a mental thinking, processing energy. So something fast happening, an earthquake of sorts, because that's Taurus. Uranus is like earthquake energy. Having that conflict with the mind, the literal mind, and that Mercury was on top of his Mars. So how he expresses himself, the thing he was doing, the action, there was conflict in that because of the earthquake going on in his brain. Funny enough, to see the Mercury in the 12th house also with this concept means there's something that was hidden. So something that was hidden, and then you look at what sign that 12th house is, and it's Leo, and the Leo is about the heart. There was something that happens with the mind, the earthquake of the mind, that was something that was hidden, that's going to reveal something that was hidden that had to do with the heart. Can't make it up. That's crazy. It's also interesting to see, because of that event, he had to cancel his tour. The sun was going through his first house, so he's very visible at that time. First house is about identity, being seen with the sun going through there. Holy shit. There's also a spotlight on his Mercury. His Mercury is a part of his identity. He's a communicator. And then there's an opposition with Saturn. Saturn takes things away from you. There is a tug of war with me in the spotlight communicating. I mean, why was he on tour, right? Because he's a singer, he's a performer. There was an opposition with that Saturn that was transiting at that time. And so Saturn took the things away from him. That took him out of the spotlight, that made it so he couldn't communicate. And almost like literally he couldn't communicate. I mean, when I had what seemed like a stroke, I was confused, and it seemed like every time I would say a word, it was almost like, did I say the right word? Like I couldn't connect it together. Like, am I saying that right? Am I like, it was really terrifying. But it is interesting to see this chart and to like kind of get more into it, kind of talking it through here. So I thought that was interesting that we both kind of went through a similar kind of thing where he's revealing this now, but it happened like over a year ago. But for me, like what I went through was just a few weeks ago. And to be able to look at his chart and to see how Uranus was integrated in his experience, like it was integrated in my experience, I think actually when I'm looking at his astrology and like what he went through, like I'm seeing all the pieces together, the earthquake of the mind, that was in the 12th house. So like you couldn't see what was going on either. And 12th house is about hidden things, the things that take you out of society. So for him, getting off tour, and then he had to get hospitalized. Probably that's hospital. 12th house is being in a hospital or being in prison. It could be that too. But to also see the Leo in the 12th house, Leo's connected to the heart. So if someone had read his chart, there could be an indicator of something hidden to do with the heart that could be revealed with time. It's also interesting to see relationships and motivation of the heart, loyalty, but of maybe hidden things. Maybe there was something also revealed in here, something for him here. And so now he's got Uranus that is just hit his 10th house, which this guy has been like, has an incredible career. My personal opinion, just watching and just seeing like the evolution of this person and like the talent of this individual. He's about to go through a renaissance. I don't know if he's, well, let me say this. I think the timing of him going through what he went through was to prepare him for what's to come in the next 7 years, because big shit is coming up for him, especially in maybe like 5 years or so. Like if he's got an idea for a concept album or a movie, or I don't know, but something faded and huge, and like his legacy is going to be coming up in probably about 5 years. and his life is going to be completely changed. Interesting. And it has to do with like his communication era. This is the time when he's really going to be the the energy that he has been molding for years, but like this is going to be his time to shine, I think. Holy crap. Look at that. That's amazing. Good for you. We're glad you're happy and healthy. I'm glad you can look at it with that sense of like changed perspective and um man, you're a lucky guy. You're a lucky guy, especially with the hole in the heart aspect that this whole thing like opened up for you. Talking to him like he's watching. So I thought that was a really interesting thing to look at in his chart and to see for myself and to kind of have experienced something not too long ago that was kind of similar. So something to think about with astrology, but I guess this is more for people who care about this stuff because I don't imagine anybody's really going to care unless they are into astrology. But maybe if you're a Childish Gambino, Donald Glover fan who saw this news, maybe this is a video that can maybe give you some insight into a little bit more about him, but maybe just the possibilities of astrology. So, all right. If you like this, give it a like, share it, follow me on Instagram or Facebook. Um, I am looking to start a next gen sovereign community where being psychic and using your intuition and aligning with your higher self, this is a part of everyday life. That's what it is for me. And it certainly didn't come overnight for me, which is why I shared my Uranus journey. But if I could show you my chart again, which I've already put away, you would see that Uranus is about to hit my 11th house, which is about community. And that's what I want to create. And what I want to impact is creating normalcy that metaphysical parts of your human being is a part of our reality. It should be a part of our community and something we know about ourselves and something we can help other people be able to recognize in themselves. So if that's something you'd be interested in, check out my website, nextgenmedium.com. I have a page that I've set up that you can sign up to tell me you're interested in this. Because it's going to be launching in January 2026. Also, watch my socials because I'm sure more will be coming along as I figure things out. So check that out at nextgenmedium.com. Show me some comments about what you think about all this. Maybe there's something you notice, maybe with your own astrology knowledge, that is an interesting thing to note. Maybe something going on in that sixth house that could show a little bit of conflict. Maybe there's more to his story that I don't know. That I'm also seeing a square with Mars. You know, Mars. Mars is us doing things, action, and if there's a square with your vitality, then maybe along with that earthquake of the brain, you know, maybe that's another thing that we could have expanded upon. So let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching. Check out my other videos, and I'll see you in the next one.